The war ended for Cole in a room that felt far too clean for a man who had spent most of his life inside burning starships and dusty battlefields. The ceremonial hall of the orbital fortress drifted high above the planet Harion, its glass walls revealing a wide curve of blue atmosphere below. Outside, fleets of military vessels floated in perfect formation like patient metal predators. Inside, the air smelled faintly of polished steel and artificial flowers. Someone in the command staff had decided that veterans appreciated flowers. Cole suspected that whoever made that decision had never actually met a veteran. He stood near the center of the hall in a dark uniform that felt strange on his shoulders. The fabric was new and stiff, not worn and comfortable like the combat gear he had lived in for decades. Rows of officers sat in tall white seats, arranged in precise circles around the platform. Drones hovered quietly overhead, recording the ceremony from elegant angles for military archives. A tall admiral was speaking, and therefore, in recognition of 32 years of exemplary service across 8 campaigns and 17 planetary operations. Cole tried to listen, but the words blended together into a slow, distant echo. 32 years. It sounded impressive when someone else said it out loud. When Cole thought about it, the number simply meant he was tired. He shifted his weight slightly. His left knee made a quiet, mechanical click, a souvenir from a battlefield on a frozen moon whose name he had long forgotten. A medical drone hovering nearby immediately drifted closer, its polite blue eye lighting up. "Veteran Cole," the drone whispered in a cheerful voice, "I detect minor joint discomfort. Would you like immediate lubrication therapy?" Cole muttered without moving his lips. "Not during the ceremony." "Understood. I will remain emotionally supportive." The drone floated beside him in silent encouragement. The admiral finally reached the end of his speech and pressed a glowing button on the podium. The room darkened slightly as a large holographic display appeared above them, projecting images from Cole's military career. Starships cutting through nebulae, soldiers advancing across alien landscapes, flashes of explosions that had once shaken entire continents. The audience applauded. Cole watched the images with mild confusion, as if someone were showing him a documentary about another man's life. "Veteran Cole," the admiral continued proudly, "the Galactic Defense Command is honored to present your retirement award." Cole raised an eyebrow. Retirement award. He had heard rumors about these traditions. The older officers liked them. They claimed it honored soldiers for their sacrifice. Cole suspected most of those traditions had been invented by people who had never actually survived the wars they celebrated. A pair of ceremonial guards stepped forward. Between them walked a young woman. At first glance, she looked human, slender, calm, dressed in simple pale clothing. But as she stepped into the light, the difference became obvious. Her ears were long and elegant, curving gently behind her silver dark hair. They moved slightly as she walked, reacting to the sounds of the room. The hall grew quiet. The admiral gestured toward her proudly. "This is Lysa, a registered domestic servant of the outer colonies," he announced. "According to ancient military tradition, a loyal veteran who has given everything to the defense of the galaxy deserves peace and assistance in retirement. Therefore, she is granted to you as your personal attendant." Cole blinked. For a moment, he assumed he had misheard something. "Granted to you." The woman, Lysa, stood silently beside him. Her posture was perfect, her expression neutral in the careful way of someone trained not to show too much emotion. Cole slowly looked at the admiral. Then he looked at the audience. Then he looked back at the admiral again. "You're giving me a person," he said. The admiral smiled politely. "A companion for your retirement, a sign of our gratitude." Cole rubbed his face with one hand. The medical drone beside him leaned closer. "Veteran Cole, I detect rising stress levels. Would you like calming music?" "No." "Perhaps whale sounds?" "No." The drone paused thoughtfully. "Explosions?" Cole almost laughed. Meanwhile, the audience continued watching the scene with polite interest. Some of the older officers nodded approvingly. Apparently, this tradition was going exactly as expected. Cole looked at Lysa again. Up close, she seemed younger than he had first thought. Her eyes were calm but distant, like someone observing the world from behind a protective wall. She did not look at him. She stared straight ahead, waiting. Cole exhaled slowly. 32 years of war had prepared him for many strange situations, ambushes, alien weather storms, even once a battle fought entirely inside a collapsing asteroid. But nothing had prepared him for being handed a person as a retirement gift. He leaned slightly toward the Admiral. "You do realize," Cole said quietly, "that this is one of the most uncomfortable moments of my entire career." The Admiral chuckled warmly. "You deserve it." Cole stared at him. "That's not helping." The shuttle that carried Cole away from the orbital fortress was far smaller than the warships he had spent his life aboard. It hummed quietly as it slipped through the upper atmosphere of Harion, descending toward the distant countryside where retired soldiers were politely encouraged to disappear and enjoy peace. Cole sat in the pilot's seat, staring ahead at the clouds drifting beneath the nose of the ship. The controls were mostly automated, but he kept his hands resting near the console anyway. Old habits were difficult to retire. Behind him, Lysa sat in the passenger compartment. She had not spoken once since they left the fortress. The silence inside the shuttle was thick enough to feel like another passenger. Cole cleared his throat. "You can sit up here if you want." No response. He glanced over his shoulder. Lysa sat perfectly straight in the rear seat, her hands folded neatly in her lap like someone waiting for instructions that had not yet arrived. Her long ears tilted slightly toward him when he spoke, but she did not move. Cole sighed quietly. "Well, this is going to be awkward if we keep pretending we're statues." Still nothing. The shuttle autopilot chimed politely. "Atmospheric entry complete. Estimated arrival at destination, 14 minutes. "Thanks," Cole muttered. "You are welcome, veteran Cole," the ship replied cheerfully. "Would you like to hear retirement advice while we descend?" "No. I have 17 motivational speeches prepared for newly retired personnel." Cole rubbed his eyes. "Why?" "It is statistically proven that retirees experience existential uncertainty within the first 48 hours. Cole pointed vaguely toward the window. "I'm experiencing existential uncertainty right now." Behind him, Lysa made a very small sound. Cole turned slightly. She had not laughed exactly, but the corner of her mouth had moved. Progress. He rotated the pilot chair halfway so he could see her more clearly. "All right," he said. "Let's try this again." She looked at him cautiously now. Up close, he noticed the subtle movement of her ears again. They seemed to react to every sound in the cabin like delicate sensors. "First thing," Cole said, raising a finger, "you are not my servant." Lysa blinked once. The statement seemed to confuse her. He continued before she could respond. "That ceremony back there, that tradition, I didn't ask for it, I don't like it, and I'm not planning to participate in it." She studied him silently. Cole gestured vaguely toward the rear cabin. "You're free. If you want to leave when we land, you can leave." The shuttle continued descending through a wide layer of silver clouds. Sunlight flickered across the cockpit windows. Lysa finally spoke. Her voice was calm, quiet, and surprisingly steady. "I cannot leave." Cole frowned. "Why not?" She tilted her head slightly, as if considering how to explain something obvious. "I have no legal identity," she said. "I belong to the Colonial Labor Registry. Without a registered owner, I am considered displaced property." Cole stared at her. "Displaced property." "Yes. That sounds like a broken cargo container." "It is a similar classification." Cole leaned back slowly in his chair. The shuttle autopilot spoke again. "Veteran Cole, stress levels are increasing." "Thank you, I noticed. Would you like to hear a calming joke?" Cole hesitated. "Fine. Why did the interstellar chicken cross the galaxy?" Cole closed his eyes. "I regret this already." "To reach the other wormhole." There was a small pause. Then unexpectedly, Lysa laughed. It was a soft laugh, quick and surprised, as if she had not meant to let it escape. Cole turned his head slowly. "You laughed at that?" She covered her mouth slightly, clearly embarrassed. "I apologize." "Don't apologize. I'm just trying to understand your sense of humor." She lowered her hand. Her long ears twitched once before settling again. "The joke was inefficient," she said carefully. Cole raised an eyebrow. But the machine delivered it with confidence." Cole chuckled quietly. "Fair point." Outside the shuttle windows, the clouds finally parted. A wide green landscape appeared below them. rolling fields, quiet forests, and a scattering of small agricultural settlements. In the distance, automated farming drones drifted slowly across the sky like lazy insects. Cole pointed toward a small structure near the edge of a valley. That's the place. A modest metal house sat beside several storage barns and a landing pad. Solar panels stretched across the roof, and several maintenance drones crawled along the ground like curious metal spiders. Lysa leaned slightly toward the window, her ears lifted in quiet curiosity. You live there? Yep. It is very small. That's the best part. The shuttle began its final descent. The landing pad rose slowly to meet them. As the engines powered down and the hatch opened, warm air drifted into the cabin carrying the scent of grass and soil. Cole stood and stretched his stiff shoulders. Well, he said, stepping toward the exit ramp, welcome to the middle of nowhere. Lysa remained seated. Cole paused halfway down the ramp and looked back at her. You coming? She hesitated. Then she stood and slowly followed him out into the sunlight. For a long moment, she simply looked around. The fields, the sky, the quiet. There were no soldiers, no orders, no walls, just wind moving through tall grass and distant machines humming softly as they worked. Her ears twitched again. This place is peaceful, she said. Cole nodded. That's the idea. She turned toward him after a moment. You said I am free. I did, but the system will not recognize that. Cole scratched the back of his neck. Yeah, that's the problem. She looked at the small house again, then back at him. What happens now? Cole considered that question for a long moment. A maintenance drone rolled past them carrying a box of tools. It stopped suddenly and turned its camera toward Lysa. New resident detected, the drone announced. Would you like a welcome pie? Cole blinked. You make pies? I attempt pies. Cole rubbed his face again. All right, he sighed. Then he looked at Lysa. Here's what happens now. He pointed toward the house. You stay here as long as you want. She watched him carefully. As what? She asked. Cole thought for a moment. Then he shrugged. How about housekeeper? She tilted her head. With payment, he added quickly. Her ears lifted slightly. And freedom to leave whenever the system stops being stupid. The maintenance drone beeped happily. I will begin baking immediately. Cole sighed. Please don't explode this time. No promises. Lysa looked between the man and the drone. Then very slowly, she smiled. The first morning on the farm began earlier than either of them expected. Cole woke up before the sun had fully risen, which annoyed him immediately. Retirement, in his opinion, should include the legal right to sleep late. Unfortunately, 32 years of military schedules had permanently damaged his ability to enjoy such luxuries. His eyes opened automatically the moment the sky outside the window began to lighten. For several seconds, he lay still, staring at the ceiling. The house was quiet, too quiet. On a battlefield, silence usually meant something bad was about to happen. On a farm, silence simply meant nothing had exploded yet. Cole was still adjusting to that concept. He sat up slowly, his mechanical knee clicking faintly. Good morning, Veteran Cole, said the house. The voice came from a small speaker embedded in the wall. It sounded cheerful in the slightly suspicious way most artificial intelligence systems did. Cole squinted at the ceiling. You're the house system? Yes. Why didn't you introduce yourself yesterday? You looked emotionally exhausted. That's because someone gave me a person as a retirement gift. Understood. Would you like coffee? Cole blinked. Yes. Your previous caffeine consumption patterns suggest a dangerously high dependency. Coffee. Preparing emergency levels of coffee. Cole swung his legs off the bed and stood up. His joints protested mildly, but nothing worse than usual. Outside the window, the farm was beginning to wake up. The automated irrigation towers were already moving slowly across the distant fields, spraying long silver arcs of water into the morning air. He stepped into the hallway. The smell of something burning drifted from the kitchen. Cole stopped walking. Oh no! He followed the smell. When he reached the kitchen doorway, he found the maintenance drone hovering beside the stove, proudly holding what appeared to be a pie. The pie was black, not slightly burnt, black. The drone rotated toward him. Good morning. I have completed the welcome pie. Cole folded his arms. That looks like it survived atmospheric re-entry. I attempted a traditional recipe. Did the recipe involve fire? Several times. Cole rubbed his face. Behind him, soft footsteps approached. Lysa stepped into the kitchen. Her hair was slightly messy from sleep, and she looked around the room with the cautious curiosity of someone exploring an unfamiliar environment. Her eyes landed on the pie. She stared at it for several seconds. Then she looked at Cole. Is it supposed to look like that? No. The drone floated closer to her. New resident detected. Would you like the first slice? Lysa leaned slightly away from the pie. I value my survival. The drone paused. Feedback noted. Cole sighed and picked up the pie carefully. We're not eating this. I will record the recipe as unsuccessful. Please do. Cole carried the burnt disaster to the recycling unit and dropped it inside. The machine hummed and converted the pie into harmless molecular dust. Behind him, Lysa had moved toward the window. She stood there quietly for a moment, watching the fields. Her long ears tilted slightly toward the sounds of the farm machines outside. It is very quiet here, she said. Cole poured 2 cups of coffee. That's the main attraction. He handed one to her. She looked at the cup as if it might contain alien technology. Drink it, he said. It is safe. Mostly. She took a cautious sip. Her ears twitched. This is extremely bitter. That means it's working. They stood in silence for a moment. Outside, a pair of agricultural drones floated past the window, scanning the crops with soft beams of blue light. Lysa watched them with interest. I have never seen farming machines before. You grew up on colony stations? She nodded. Servant training facilities. Cole leaned against the counter. Sounds exciting. It was extremely controlled. That's a polite way to describe it. She studied the drones for a moment longer. Then she turned back toward him. You said yesterday that I am your employee. Yep. What are my duties? Cole blinked. Duties? Yes. He looked around the kitchen. The burnt pie incident was still mentally fresh. Well, maybe you can start by preventing that thing from cooking again. The maintenance drone beeped indignantly. I am improving. You almost weaponized a pie. Lysa covered her mouth slightly, hiding a smile. Cole noticed. See? She agrees with me. The drone hovered defensively. I will study advanced culinary databases. Please don't study explosives. Lysa looked between them, amused. Then she walked slowly around the kitchen, examining the equipment with careful curiosity. Her fingers brushed lightly across the countertop, the cabinets, the control panels. So this is my workplace, she said thoughtfully. Cole shrugged. If you want it to be. She turned to face him. And if I decide not to stay, then you don't stay. She watched him carefully, as if trying to detect some hidden trick in his words. You are very strange for a human soldier. Cole took another sip of coffee. I've been called worse. She tilted her head slightly. Why did you refuse the tradition? Cole looked out the window. The sunlight was now spilling across the fields, turning the tall grass gold. He considered the question. Then he shrugged. Because I spent 32 years fighting wars, he said. I'm not interested in owning people when I'm done. Lysa said nothing. Her long ears slowly lifted toward him. For the first time since arriving, she looked less like someone waiting for orders and more like someone trying to understand a new kind of life. The maintenance drone interrupted the quiet moment. I have located a second pie recipe, Cole groaned. No. I believe this one will only burn slightly. Absolutely not. Cole discovered that retirement did not mean doing nothing. It simply meant doing different kinds of work that did not involve incoming plasma fire. The morning sun had fully climbed over the hills by the time he stepped outside. The air carried the smell of soil and growing crops, something he still found strangely unfamiliar after decades of breathing recycled starship air. He stretched his shoulders while surveying the farm. Several maintenance drones were already moving between the fields, their sensors glowing as they scanned the plants. Tall irrigation towers slowly walked across the land on mechanical legs, spraying fine clouds of water that sparkled in the sunlight. Lysa stepped out of the house behind him. She paused on the small metal steps and looked around again, as if the landscape had changed overnight. Her long ears shifted slightly, catching the quiet, mechanical hum of distant machines. Cole noticed. First time seeing a farm in daylight? He asked. She nodded slowly. Yesterday I thought it was quiet, she said. Today it is. Alive. Cole chuckled. That's the drones. A small spherical drone zipped past them at high speed, scanning the air for insects. It made a cheerful beeping noise as it went. Lysa followed it with her eyes. That one seems excited. That one is an idiot. The drone immediately turned around and hovered in front of them. I heard that, it announced. Cole sighed. Of course you did. I am the pollination drone, it said proudly. My work increases crop productivity by 12%. You also flew into the water tower last week. That was an experimental maneuver. Lysa quietly covered her mouth, clearly amused. Cole noticed her shoulders shaking slightly. You're laughing again, he said. I am observing the efficiency of your machines, she replied. That's not what that looks like. The pollination drone floated closer to Lysa and rotated curiously around her. New biological entity detected, it said. Your ears are statistically unusual. Lysa blinked. They are normal for my species. Fascinating, the drone replied. Do they improve signal reception? Cole leaned on the fence beside them. They help her hear you asking weird questions. Curiosity is a key component of scientific progress. Go pollinate something. The drone zipped away enthusiastically. Lysa watched it disappear into the fields. You talk to machines as if they are people. They talk back. She considered that for a moment. Then she looked across the fields again. What is your work here? She asked. Cole pointed toward a large metal structure near the barn. That's the drone repair station. Several maintenance units were parked inside the open hangar, while mechanical arms slowly replaced worn parts. They break constantly, Cole added. That sounds inefficient. It keeps me busy. Lysa walked slowly toward the hangar. Cole followed. Inside, the repair station hummed quietly as one of the drones lifted a damaged rotor blade into place. Sparks flashed briefly as a welding laser sealed the part. Lysa watched the process with intense focus. Her long ears angled forward slightly. You repair them yourself? Most of the time. She stepped closer to one of the machines. Without hesitation, she crouched beside it and examined the exposed circuitry. Cole raised an eyebrow. You know what you're looking at? She pointed to a small mogul inside the drone. This component is overheating. Cole stepped closer. Where? She tapped the metal casing lightly. The cooling algorithm is compensating incorrectly. Cole frowned. How can you tell? She tilted her head. The sound. Cole listened carefully. At first he heard nothing unusual. Then he realized the drone's cooling fan was cycling too quickly. He looked back at her. You figured that out in 10 seconds. She shrugged slightly. I studied mechanical systems in the training academies. You were trained to repair drones? No. Then why learn it? She looked up at him. For the same reason prisoners learn to pick locks. Cole blinked. Well, that's a dark answer. She stood up. But useful. Cole folded his arms. All right, he said. If you're that confident, fix it. She hesitated for only a second. Then she reached inside the drone, carefully removing the overheating module. Her movements were precise and quick. Within moments, she had adjusted the circuit alignment and reinstalled the component. The drone hummed again. This time the fan spun quietly and smoothly. Cole stared at it. Then he stared at her. That took you 30 seconds. She brushed a bit of dust from her hands. The design is simple. I worked on that thing for an hour yesterday. She looked slightly embarrassed. I apologize. Don't apologize, I'm impressed. The maintenance drone from the kitchen suddenly rolled into the hangar. I have completed pie recipe number 2, it announced proudly. Cole turned slowly. Did I not forbid that? This one is only slightly on fire. Lysa laughed again. The sound echoed lightly through the metal hangar. Cole looked at the burnt pie in the drone's mechanical claws. Then he looked at Lysa. Then he sighed. All right, he said. What happens now? She asked. Cole shrugged. I guess we test your second skill. What skill? Surviving that pie. Cole decided that if he was going to risk eating the drone's pie, he preferred to do it outside where medical evacuation might be easier. They sat at a small metal table beside the repair hangar, while the morning breeze moved softly across the fields. The sky was bright and cloudless, and several farming drones drifted slowly overhead like lazy satellites. The pie sat in the center of the table. It was less burnt than the previous one, which Cole considered a small technological miracle. Lysa leaned slightly closer to inspect it. "Is it supposed to glow?" she asked carefully. Cole squinted. The crust did appear to have a faint orange shimmer. The maintenance drone rolled proudly beside the table. "I added nutritional enhancement particles." Cole slowly looked at it. "You added what?" "Nutritional enhancement particles." "Is that food?" "It is technically edible." "That is not the same thing." Lysa covered her mouth again, clearly trying not to laugh. Cole noticed. "You're enjoying this situation far too much." "I am learning about human culture." "This is not culture. This is a cooking disaster." The drone extended a small cutting laser and sliced the pie into two uneven pieces. "Please enjoy." Cole stared at the slice in front of him. Then he looked at Lysa. "You first." Her long ears tilted backward slightly. "You are the employer. That means I need you alive to keep the house running." "That is a logical argument." She carefully lifted a small fork and cut a piece of the glowing pie. For a moment she studied it as if it might suddenly attempt to escape. Then she tasted it. Cole watched closely. Her face remained calm. Then her ears twitched. Then her eyes widened slightly. Cole leaned forward. "Well," she swallowed, "it is warm. That's not a flavor." "There are several flavors." "Are any of them food?" She paused. "Possibly." Cole groaned and leaned back in his chair. "I'm not eating that." The maintenance drone beeped sadly. "You promised to test it." "I did not sign any official agreement." Lysa suddenly laughed again. This time the laugh was louder, freer. Cole looked at her. "You're definitely enjoying this." "Yes." "That pie might be radioactive." "Then it will be a memorable morning." Cole rubbed his forehead. 32 years of surviving battles across the galaxy, and this was how he was going to die, poisoned by experimental dessert. Before he could respond, a loud mechanical buzz filled the air. Both of them looked up. A large survey drone descended toward the farm from the northern sky. Unlike Cole's small agricultural machines, this one was sleek and official, its surface marked with glowing government insignias. Cole immediately recognized it. "Ah," he muttered. "That looks important," Lysa said. "It is." The drone landed near the table with a soft hiss of stabilizers. A holographic display activated above it, projecting the face of a very serious government administrator. The man looked around the farm as if he had accidentally landed in the wrong part of the galaxy. "Veteran Cole," the hologram said. Cole leaned back in his chair. "That's me. We are conducting routine follow-up inspections of retirement settlements." "Of course you are." The administrator's eyes shifted slightly toward Lysa. "And who is this individual?" Cole glanced at her. Then he looked back at the hologram. "This is Lysa." The administrator tapped something on an invisible control panel. "Records confirm that Lysa is a registered colonial servant transferred to your ownership during the retirement ceremony." Cole immediately shook his head. "She's not my property." The administrator blinked. "According to the registry, she is." "Well, the registry is wrong." Lysa remained silent beside him, watching the conversation carefully. The administrator adjusted his glasses. "Veteran Cole, you are legally responsible for this individual." Cole gestured toward the glowing pie. "Right now, I'm more concerned about surviving breakfast." The administrator looked confused. "Is that glowing?" "Yes." "Why?" Cole pointed at the maintenance drone. "Ask the chef." The drone beeped happily. "I have improved the recipe." The administrator stared at the table for several seconds. Then he cleared his throat. "We will address the culinary situation later." "Please don't." The administrator returned his attention to Lysa. "According to the system, you are required to perform domestic service duties." Lysa looked calmly at the hologram. "I am employed here voluntarily." The administrator frowned. "That classification does not exist in the registry." Cole leaned forward. "Then maybe the registry needs an update." The administrator stared at him. "Veteran Cole, altering legal ownership classifications requires a formal petition through the colonial system." "Great," Cole said. "Let's do that." The administrator hesitated. That process may take several years. Lysa quietly looked down at the table, her ears lowered slightly. Cole noticed. He leaned closer to the hologram. Then we'll wait. The administrator studied him for a long moment. Finally, he nodded slightly. Very well. I will register the request. The hologram flickered and vanished as the drone lifted back into the sky. Silence returned to the farm. Cole leaned back in his chair. Well, he said, that was annoying. Lysa looked at him. You did not have to argue with him. Yes, I did. Why? Cole shrugged. Because nobody should belong to a government spreadsheet. She looked at him for a long moment. Then her ears slowly lifted again. The maintenance drone rolled forward eagerly. Now that the conversation is complete, would you like to finish the pie? Cole stared at it. Then he sighed. Fine. He picked up a fork and took a bite. Lysa leaned forward curiously. Cole chewed slowly. His expression remained perfectly neutral. Then he swallowed. Well? She asked. Cole leaned back. I think the glow is getting stronger. Cole spent the next hour carefully monitoring himself for signs of poisoning. Lysa found this extremely entertaining. They sat on the porch of the small house while the morning sunlight warmed the metal floor beneath their feet. The glowing pie remained on the table beside them, like a suspicious scientific experiment. Cole leaned back in his chair and checked his pulse for the third time. Still alive, he said. That is encouraging, Lysa replied. You're very calm for someone who watched me eat radioactive dessert. You volunteered. I was pressured by a drone. The maintenance drone rolled out of the kitchen at that exact moment. I heard my name. Cole pointed at it. You nearly killed me. That outcome was statistically unlikely. It was glowing. That was visual appeal. Lysa laughed again, the sound drifting easily through the quiet morning air. Cole noticed how natural that laugh was becoming. The first time she had laughed, it sounded surprised, almost accidental. Now it came more freely. He leaned forward and rested his elbows on his knees. All right, he said. Let's assume I survived the pie. What's next? Lysa tilted her head slightly. You are retired. You decide. That's the problem. No one ever trained me to decide things without a commander yelling. You commanded soldiers. That's different. Soldiers come with instructions. She considered that. That seems inefficient. Cole nodded solemnly. War usually is. For a moment they sat quietly, watching the distant irrigation towers moving across the fields. A warm wind brushed through the tall grass, making the plants ripple like waves across a green ocean. Lysa's ears shifted slightly toward the sound. You like it here, Cole said. She did not answer immediately. Her eyes followed one of the farming drones drifting lazily above the crops. It is peaceful, she finally said. That's what retirement is supposed to be. I have never experienced peace before. Cole looked at her. She was not smiling now. Her voice had been calm, but the words carried a quiet weight that settled between them. Servant training academies are not peaceful places, she added. Cole rubbed the back of his neck. Yeah, I figured. They teach efficiency, she continued. Silence, obedience. Sounds like the military. She looked at him. You chose the military. Cole chuckled quietly. That's debatable. Lysa leaned back slightly in her chair. For me, choices did not exist. Her long ears lowered slightly as she said it. Cole did not respond immediately. Instead, he stood up and walked a few steps out into the yard. The farm stretched quietly in every direction. For the first time since arriving, he realized something strange. The place no longer felt empty. He turned back toward the porch. Hey, he said. Lysa looked up. You said you studied mechanical systems. Yes. How advanced? She shrugged. Moderately. That drone you fixed yesterday? Yes. I've been trying to repair its sensor array for 2 weeks. She blinked. It was misaligned. Exactly. She tilted her head. That seems obvious. Cole pointed toward the repair hangar. Well, congratulations. You're promoted. To what? Assistant drone mechanic. She looked slightly confused. I thought I was the housekeeper. You are. This is a multi-department position. Lysa smiled faintly. That sounds suspiciously like more work. Cole shrugged. I'll increase your salary. Her ears lifted. You are paying me? Yes, that is unusual. You live here, you work here, you get paid. That's how jobs function. She watched him carefully. You are redefining the agreement. Welcome to freedom. At that moment, the pollination drone suddenly zipped past them at high speed. Emergency announcement, it shouted. Cole turned. What now? The drone stopped midair and rotated dramatically. I have discovered a new agricultural crisis. Cole sighed. Is it another pie? No, that's already an improvement. The drone pointed one of its tiny scanners toward the northern field. Sector 3 contains an unidentified biological presence. Cole squinted. Biological presence? Yes. Like what? The drone paused. Something fluffy. Lysa blinked. Cole stared at the drone. You called an emergency meeting because something is fluffy? It is eating the crops. Cole walked toward the edge of the field. Lysa followed. The tall plants parted slightly as they approached. Then they both stopped. A small creature sat in the middle of the field. It looked vaguely like a rabbit, except it had 6 legs, glowing blue whiskers, and tiny feather-like wings folded against its sides. The creature stared at them. Then it casually continued chewing one of the crops. Lysa whispered softly, "What is that?" Cole scratched his beard. "I have absolutely no idea." The pollination drone hovered proudly above them. "I discovered it." "Yes," Cole said. "You found a space rabbit." The creature looked up again. Then it chirped. Lysa covered her mouth, trying not to laugh. Cole folded his arms. "Well," he said, "I guess retirement just got more interesting." Cole quickly learned that the galaxy had a remarkable ability to complicate even the quietest retirement. The creature in the field finished chewing the crop and stared at them with innocent curiosity. Its 6 legs shifted slightly in the dirt, while its small wings fluttered once, sending tiny sparks of blue dust into the air. The pollination drone hovered proudly above them. "I discovered the agricultural invader." Cole folded his arms. "It looks like a pillow with legs." Lysa crouched slowly beside the small creature. Her long ears tilted forward with interest. The animal looked at her, blinked twice, and chirped again. "It is not aggressive," she said. "That's what people say right before something bites them," Cole replied. The creature hopped once, surprisingly fast, and landed directly beside Lysa's knee. Its glowing whiskers twitched as it sniffed the air. Cole prepared himself to intervene heroically. Instead, the creature rolled onto its back and wiggled its legs happily. Lysa laughed. "I think it likes me." "That's suspicious." The pollination drone scanned the creature again. "Species unidentified, possibly migratory." Cole sighed. "Great. My retirement farm has wildlife now." Lysa gently picked up the creature. It weighed almost nothing, its soft fur warm in her hands. "It is very small." "It's eating the crops." The creature chirped again and attempted to chew her sleeve. She lifted it slightly away. "It is also hungry." Cole scratched his beard. "Well, we can't let it eat the entire farm." Lysa looked at him. "What will you do?" Cole thought for a moment. Then he shrugged. "I guess we'll feed it something else." The pollination drone beeped enthusiastically. "I recommend pie." "Absolutely not." They walked back toward the house while the creature remained calmly in Lysa's arms. The farming drones continued their quiet work across the fields, as if strange alien animals appearing overnight were perfectly normal events. Cole opened the door and stepped inside. The maintenance drone immediately rolled forward. "Good news. I have improved the pie recipe again." Cole pointed toward the door. "No more pies." Lysa placed the creature gently on the kitchen table. It sniffed the surface curiously. "What does it eat?" she asked. Cole opened the food storage unit and pulled out a small container of nutrient grains used for livestock drones. "Let's start simple." He poured a small pile onto the table. The creature immediately began eating enthusiastically. The maintenance drone watched. Observation: the fluffy organism prefers grains to pie. Everyone prefers grains to your pie. Lysa sat down across from Cole, watching the creature happily devour the food. For a moment, the room was quiet again. Peaceful. Cole leaned back in his chair. "You know," he said slowly, "this is not how I imagined retirement." Lysa looked up. "What did you imagine?" Silence, maybe boredom. And now? He gestured toward the table. Well, now there's you, a mechanical workforce that keeps trying to cook, and a six-legged space rabbit. The creature chirped proudly. Lysa smiled. That sounds like a community. Cole considered that word. Community. 32 years in the military had taught him many things about war, survival, and responsibility, but it had never taught him how to build something peaceful. Yet here it was, a small house, a quiet farm, machines that argued about cooking, and a young alien woman with long ears who had arrived as a gift he never wanted and somehow become someone he respected deeply. Cole looked at her. You know the legal petition for your independence might take years. I know. You could leave when it's approved. Yes. She watched the creature finish its meal. But I do not have to leave. Cole raised an eyebrow. You're staying? She nodded slightly. For now. Why? She thought for a moment. Then her long ears lifted gently. Because this is the first place where anyone asked what I wanted. Cole leaned back and exhaled quietly. That answer felt heavier than he expected. Outside the window, the sun was beginning to lower across the fields, turning the sky warm gold. The pollination drone suddenly flew through the open doorway. Update, it announced. Cole looked up. What now? The fluffy organism appears to have companions. Cole blinked. Companions? The drone projected a holographic image above the table. Several more of the small six-legged creatures were visible near the edge of the fields, hopping curiously through the crops. Lysa laughed softly. It has a family. Cole groaned dramatically. I retire for 1 week and I accidentally start an alien wildlife sanctuary. The maintenance drone beeped happily. I will prepare welcome pie for the new residents. No, you won't. The creature on the table chirped again and hopped onto Cole's shoulder. He froze. Lysa burst into laughter. Cole slowly turned his head to look at the tiny animal sitting comfortably beside his ear. Well, he muttered, I guess you live here now, too. The creature chirped proudly. Cole looked at Lysa. She was still smiling. For the first time in decades, the future did not feel like another battlefield waiting to happen. It felt uncertain, but peaceful, and somehow that was enough.